Hello everyone and welcome back into another video. Today we're back in Warframe with another build, and this time it's for Wukong, the monkey god, and the Warframe that pretty much everyone uses because yeah, he is really good and really easy to play. And yeah, with that, let's jump into the build. Alright, so right now I do not have any Archon Shards. If you want to use them, I do suggest using the red ones with either duration or ability strength. That will probably be the best thing to do. Otherwise, you can go for 2 green shards to basically strip all enemies' armor using the +2 corrosive stacks. But of course, if you have any personal preference, just stick to what you prefer. It's usually the best thing to do. Alright, moving on to his abilities, we have first of all his passive, which is quite interesting. He has 3 additional lives, let's call them, and whenever you die, you consume one of these charges and you trigger one of these effects. We have Primal Forces that increases your elemental damage for 60 seconds. Heavenly Clock makes you invisible for 30 seconds. Cosmic Armor makes you invulnerable to any kind of damage for 30 seconds. Monkey Luck increases your loot drops for 60 seconds, I think it doubles them. And finally, Sly Alchemy that makes orbs 4 times more effective for 60 seconds. Of course, we don't want to die either way, but if you do, you have 3 free tokens to revive, and that's quite nice, especially for newer players. Moving on to the first ability, we have Celestial Twin. This is the actual clone he summons. It doesn't have any duration, it doesn't cost that much, and the clone gets a bonus both to health and damage, so it will deal more damage and it will have a lot of health, which is quite nice. The second ability is called Cloud Walker, and it's basically a very good movement ability. You activate it and you start flying. You can move around very fast and you are also invisible while using it, which is quite nice. The duration isn't that long, but you are very fast, and this ability also has 2 additional effects. First of all, whenever you reactivate the ability, you will stun all the enemies in a certain radius, plus you also regenerate some health while moving in your Cloud Walker mode. And this healing will also heal your twin, which is very nice. The third ability is called Defy, and it does cost 50 energy, which is quite a lot because the other 2 abilities were only 25. And after casting the ability, you and your twin, if it's active, will become invulnerable to damage. You will taunt all the enemies in a certain range, and all the damage you take will be converted to armor up to a maximum of 1500 armor, which is quite a lot actually. The armor buff lasts for almost 40 seconds with this build, and after those 3.1 seconds of invulnerability, you will automatically cast a secondary attack that will deal damage to all the enemies in a certain radius, and you're able to recast ability whenever you want to end the invulnerability phase. Finally, his fourth ability, which we won't use for this build, is called Primal Fury. This is just an exalted weapon. You activate the ability and it will drain some energy per second. It does have a fixed amount of damage that you can increase with power strength, and you can also mod the actual Iron Staff, which is the exalted weapon. But for this build, we are not using Primal Fury, we are using Terrify. Terrify is a very good ability, especially because it removes armor from enemies, and it's also nice because the augment, called Creeping Terrify, slows enemies' movement by 60%, and with just a bit of power strength, you can get up to 80% speed reduction, which is very nice for survivability. It does have an enemy cap, which is 35, and I think that is more than enough. Okay, moving on to the actual mods, we have first of all the aura, Growing Power. You can swap this for whatever else you want. I just like it because I can recast my Celestial Twin and make him have more health. I can also regain more HP while using Cloud Walker, and you can reach the maximum amount of armor you get from Defy a lot faster, while also dealing more damage thanks to the 25% more power strength. Then we're using Prime Sure-Footed as our Axilus mod, but you can always replace that with Handspring, which is much easier to acquire and it does perform pretty much the same. Or you can, just get good at the game and use Defy whenever there's someone slamming the ground, so you don't get staggered or anything else. But yeah, that requires some timing. So in general, if you have Prime Sure-Footed, use that one. If you don't, just use Handspring. It's pretty much the same. Then we have Umbra Vitality and Umbral Intensify for both more health and more power strength. If you don't want to use an Umbra Forma here, you can tweak your adaptation, or you can just, instead of Growing Power, use something like Steel Charge that gives you a bit more space on your build. Then we have Augur Secrets for even more power strength. Creeping Terrify, as I said before, because we want to slow down enemies. Adaptation to reduce the damage we take after adapting to that type of damage. Priming Continuity to increase our duration, which isn't exactly that useful on this build, so you can change this one with something else if you prefer it. For example, you can go for more range, you can just build more efficiency, or you can put in here whatever you like. Under Adrenaline, this is very useful because it does basically take care of all your energy needs, and I do actually like it on a build like this because we have a ton of health. And finally we have Archon Shards, which doesn't work by itself on Wukong because he doesn't have any electricity on his abilities, but it can trigger from abilities that are casted by your companions, and you can replace it with normal stretch if you don't have this one. It's just a quality of life thing. Then we are running Arcane Guardian for more armor because we don't have that much armor, we only have 290, and that is only 49% damage reduction on your health. Finally, we have Arcane Blessing to increase our HP by 1200, I think it is, and makes you a bit more tanky. So that was the Wukong build. Let's now move on to the companion one. We are using a Hound, and this big boy here has a very nice little build. And this is pretty much the usual build you see on any Hounds. It's the one that spreads all the statuses the enemies have to nearby enemies, and it is what makes this build quite funny. You may have noticed that I changed this mod. It's because it is a flex slot, so you can literally keep whatever you prefer in here. Just keep in mind that you can only have a fixed amount of Prospectus bones, so you have to replace one of them. Do not replace the other ones, just replace the one you can in here. So all the denial mods you can use. I will probably use Coolant Leak. This freezes enemies around the Hound. It is not exactly the best mod in the game, but it is another status the Hound will apply onto enemies, and it does slow them even more because we already slowed them by 80% thanks to Creep and Terrify, plus another 10%, plus freezing, plus we can trigger a bunch of stuff, so it's quite nice. Alright, then we have the actual dog's weapon, which is in this case the Akaten. This is used because it's the one that has slash and puncture, while the others have impact and puncture or impact and slash, which we don't like, so let's stick to slash and puncture. And you don't have to apply any formas on this weapon, just stick a potato into it and it will be fine. And we want to basically add all the statuses we can on a build like this. I'm going for radiation, heat and magnetic. Then I'm running melee prowess for more status chance, condition overload for more damage depending on how many status types are affecting the target, and pressure point because I cannot use prime pressure point, but if you want to invest one forma into this weapon, do it and use prime pressure point. And of course the last slot can be whatever you want. Just keep in mind you cannot use any acolyte mods in here, so yeah, it's not gonna be the strongest weapon in the game, it's just a thing we use to apply a ton of statuses. Okay, let's now talk about the actual Warframe weapon, because this time they are important. We are using the Nuker, and this is basically a status build. We only want to apply statuses, and pretty much all the other things are just in here to increase our status chance, our status duration even, and we then have some multi-shot because it's basically more damage for the weapon, and more damage is always a nice thing. Then we are running Prime Pistol Ammo Mutation because this weapon may become a bit ammo hungry after staying in a mission for a while, so this is just a nice way to fix that. And for our melee of choice we have the Dual Ichor, the Incarnon version, because whenever we kill some enemy, it does summon a toxin field that will deal a ton of damage and will last in there for I think it's like 10 seconds-ish or something like that. And yet those toxin clouds are very strong, so that's why we use them. The evolutions I choose are, of course, the Incarnon form, which is the first evolution. Evolution 2 is 90 more damage, and after striking an enemy with the final move of neutral combo, which is just mashing your melee button, you get 30% more attack speed for 33 seconds. The other thing will be 5 additional combos on targets affected by toxin. You can use this one if you prefer it, but we are already using a mod that does kind of a similar thing, so that's why I went for more attack speed. Evolution 3, I choose more range because the other two weren't exactly of my taste. And finally, Evolution 4, I am using more status chance, which makes this weapon a status monster, and that's what we want. And then it's pretty much a very basic build. We're using Condition Overload for more melee damage, Whipping Boots for more status depending on our combo multiplier, Blood Rush for more crit chance depending on our combo multiplier, Prime Reach for more range, Virulent Scourge and Volcanic Edge for gas damage, and finally Shocking Touch and Voltage Strike to increase our electricity damage by a lot because we're using melee influence. And finally, after rambling for a while, we have our focus tree, which in this case is Naramon. It's just a personal preference because for a melee build, having a combo multiplier that doesn't reset to 0 in a second is quite nice. We just lose 5 every few seconds instead of losing all the combos, so it's a nice little thing to have. You can of course use whatever focus tree you like. Okay, now that my throat hurts a little bit, we can grab our orbs here to gain some HP, because why not? And we can summon our 20 heavy gunners level 235 with the Seal Path modifier to showcase the build. So what we do is we open with Terrify, we then use our clone, our 1, and we build our combo up to 6 to trigger the Incarnon, and use a heavy attack, and all the enemies are already dead, so let's summon 20 fresh little meat banks. And let's armor strip them again and attack them with a melee. Once with a charge attack. Yep. Everything is just gone. Then again, we armor strip them, we just attack them a few times with our melee, and everything else will just disappear. We can just, of course, use our Terrify and let our clone and our dog take care of everything. It just takes a little bit, but it does eventually kill all of them. Of course, yeah, we have to wait a little bit. Okay, so then again, we armor strip the enemies, and we just attack them a few times with our melee. And they are pretty much gone. Which is amazing. We don't even have to armor strip them. We already deal enough damage to just delete them. Even without that, it does of course take a little bit longer. But yeah, it is quite strong. And if you don't want to use Terrify and want to use a grouping ability instead, you can absolutely do that, and it's going to make the build probably a lot better against big group of enemies. But usually against armored enemies you want to armor strip them, even though with the armor changes that is not needed anymore, it's still a very good option. You can of course use this kind of setup on everyone. It is just nice to have a clone that does the status applying instead of having to swap to your secondary weapon and then your melee and doing all of that. We already have someone that does it for us. If you wonder about the armor thingamajig, you basically do this, you take a ton of damage and then release it at the end. It doesn't deal that much damage, but if you armor strip the enemies, it kind of does. And if you wonder about Cloud Walker, you can just use it to teleport around and to reposition your clone if he's too far away or he's stuck against like one enemy or something. And we can use our third ability to grant us a bunch of armor, deal some damage back to the enemies, which isn't a lot, but it is some damage. And it also grants us a bit of armor for quite a long time, so it's nice for survivability. And we can of course make ourselves invincible if we need to with our 2, do the same thing with our 3, and recast it if we don't need it anymore. You know, we are very difficult to kill already, and we are slowing the enemies by like 90%, so they are not moving that fast, and we can deal with them at our own speed without having to worry about that. And then of course we can just, kill all of them in a few seconds, which is the whole point of the game. Okay, so that is the Wukong build. If you have any other Wukong builds, I am quite interested because I usually never play this Warframe that much. Use my builds just as a blueprint and then make your own builds, which is what I hope you guys do. Okay, I will now leave you to the showcase because it's going to be fun, I'll tell you that. And as always, remember to like and subscribe for more content. Have a great rest of the day, and bye-bye.
You know that you control me. Guilty self-affliction. Prey on me